UK band Coldplay made a forceful entry into the popular music scene with the July 2000 debut release Parachutes. Riding on the success of their hit single Yellow, Coldplay quickly gained a worldwide following, and the band was nominated for the 2000 Mercury Music Prize. After extensive touring in support of Parachutes, frontman Chris Martin found himself exhausted, and the band went months without any new output. Amidst music press buzz of Coldplay calling it quits, the band found fresh inspiration in a song called In My Place. Coldplay teamed with producers Ken Nelson and mixer Mark Pethane, the production team behind Parachutes, to craft the 2002 release A Rush of Blood to the Head. Showing a marked increase in both songwriting and lyrical maturity, A Rush of Blood to the Head has become recognized as Coldplay's strongest work to date and earned a place as one of the most acclaimed albums of 2002. And now, the WUSM interview with Coldplay. Having finished recording A Rush of Blood to the Head, how do you feel about the record right now?
Well, I don't know. I will listen to it again, but I mean, I haven't listened to Parachutes. I've listened to occasional snippets to remember how to play it. But I don't plan on listening to it. I want to start, pushing on again. But yeah, I've got probably about 6 or 7 listens in me, I think, and that's about it.
Chris, how does the album sound to you?
This is probably not the place to say it. I can never listen to anything we do once it's finished because there's always something that isn't really finished, But it's done now.
Well, has anything specific struck you about the album at this stage of the production?
We were in the mastering studio in New York, and you just flick through the tracks like one by one by one by one really quickly, and it just sounds like another album by another band, of just 11 songs, and yet to us it's like I said, just weeks and months and years of, some of that was written 2 years ago, some of it was written 2 months ago, and all the different places it's been written and tried, and all the arguments about it, and all the frustration about it, and all the changing on it, and all the songs that didn't make it, and all the, it's bonkers, and then it's just another album,
A Rush of Blood to the Head must be more than just another album to you. Obviously, you're quite proud about it, and it must have sounded pretty good as you were working through the stages of the recording process. Otherwise, it wouldn't have already been released, I would imagine.
Well, I know that I'm not sure we could do any better, which is saying a lot because I get up every morning, I can't believe that I'm in our band, because I think I'm with really amazing people. And so, if I don't think we can do any better, that's a good thing. So what I'm saying is we can't do any better, but at the moment, I don't know.
In the process of creating A Rush of Blood to the Head, did you feel any sort of pressure? Because Parachutes was a great success, obviously. Did that affect your approach to this new album at all?
I think the pressure that we felt was more on ourselves to build on what we'd done with Parachutes and fulfill the potential that I think we realised that we had. I don't think we never thought, we've got to make it sell more than this, or make it sell more than Parachutes, or make it more popular, or I think it was just to make it better in our eyes. And it's the old kind of second album cliche, everyone always thinks it's better, but I think I know it's better. I think it's so in that respect the pressure was to get something that was really fulfilling the promise that I think was scratching. We scratched the iceberg off on the first album. It was still, I think it's a good record, the first one, but I think we're kind of, it's as if we've got muscles. I think it's kind of putting a bit more flesh onto what we had.
Well, if the sales of the first album, Parachutes, are any indication, people consider it to be much more than just a good record. Do you have any anxiety at all about, seeing if A Rush of Blood to the Head is going to hit the sales margin that Parachutes did?
No, well, I don't know. We'd like to think that sales don't matter, but of course they do. It's without people buying our records, we can't carry on what we're doing, and so at the end of the day, it is ultimately important. But for whatever reason, Parachute sold however many copies it did. I'm not sure that's something that we don't have complete control over. Once we finish our record, you give it over to the public, and it ceases to become your own property anymore. It becomes, everyone's property, and everyone has a part of it. And so I don't know. I mean, if you could bottle that and or put it on record, then I think every song would be every record would sell in millions of copies. So there's always that, there's the risk that people aren't going to buy it or people aren't going to like it. But yeah, it's a risk you have to take. But luckily from the feedback we've had from various people, I think that it's been good. I hope, fingers crossed, people will like it and people will want to hear it. I think the way I look at it is more to do with how many people will hear it rather than how many people will buy it. I think it's more of a... Yeah. I mean, it probably eventually boils down to the same sort of thing, but it's more important for people to hear it than it is for people to buy it.
That was In My Place off Coldplay's newest release, A Rush of Blood to the Head. Now, your new album, A Rush of Blood to the Head, shows, from a lot of points of view, a marked increase in maturity. How do you see A Rush of Blood to the Head as a progression from your first album, Parachutes?
It's a lot more confident, and it's a bit more energetic. I think we spent so long touring, the whole planet basically last year and the year before that, and we kind of sort of enjoyed playing the more energetic songs more. They were always more suited to playing live. So I think subconsciously in the back of our mind, we wanted to make a slightly more energetic album because we knew we were going to be playing it live more. It's not for definite, but it seems to make sense, that we would have subconsciously thought like that.
How do you see A Rush of Blood to the Head now that you've got all the songs together and it's a whole finished project? How do you see this as a single collection of songs?
I just see 7 months of trial and error. I think and hopefully finally getting to a point where we're all pretty happy. But it's been a long process, choosing which songs and getting those songs right, and so I feel quite strange when I look at it.
Well, obviously the massive success of your first album, Parachutes, I'm sure that you guys learned quite a bit, both in the production of that album and on your tour itself. Now there's a new album, you've got a lot more experience going into it, but is the learning process continuing? Do you still see yourself developing?
You're always learning, we haven't stopped learning yet. It's only our second time properly in the studio, and so we're still novices in a way. So yeah, we're learning all the time.
Can you make any kind of a bridge between the songs that you did on Parachutes and some of the songs off your newest album?
I don't think I could do casual description. I couldn't even casually describe Parachutes, and that was years ago. Well, 2 years ago. It's just the best thing we can do at the moment, I think. I hope, anyway. Well, it is the best we can do. Whether people like it or not is another matter, but it's a different record because we wanted it to be different, but it would be hard to try and recreate something you've already done as well.
You say this is a different album. In what ways is it different than Parachutes?
Just I suppose, in terms of the way the songs are written, and I suppose in arrangement as well. It's more intense, and but this is kind of waffly rubbish, really. It's hard to say.
Chris, you do the lyric writing for Coldplay. How do you see the tracks on A Rush of Blood to the Head?
Like 11 errant, very badly behaved children that I don't really speak to. They're like 11 estranged children who I might, meet one day again, live.
Was this album easier for you to write, based on lyrics, than Parachutes was?
No, because lyrically I didn't really feel I was going anywhere until my uncle took me aside one day and said, "Now listen, son, you might be rich and famous, but your lyrics are awful." And I said, "What do you mean, Uncle? Everyone loves Yellow." And he said, "Yeah, but it doesn't mean anything." And so he basically kicked me into shape on lyrics, and my friend Tim did as well. And I really got into words. I got a laptop computer, you know, and so when we were touring around America and stuff, just flying around, you know, typing in all these new songs. For the first time ever, I was also typing in lyrics as well. You know, not that I was because I can't write lyrics just onto a typewriter, but because the laptop was there, as soon as you sing something, you know, type it in. So I wasn't forgetting things so much, which was really cool.
Did any one of your estranged children, as you call them, give you a particularly hard time in the writing process?
Well, there's a song called In My Place, which is tricky. They're all tricky. What I'm saying is, I'm the wrong person to ask, because I know each of those songs, when they arrived, I thought, bloody hell, that isn't bad. You know, and then Johnny puts a riff on something, or Guy does something, or Will does. You know, there's a song. You know, I've been so tremendously excited about every single one of those tunes. You know, just completely overexcited about it, and never stop playing it all night, all day. It's exactly like every mother and father thinks that their children are the best things of all time. You know,
Sure.
and they are to those people, but to some teacher at school, they might be, you know, a little pain in the neck. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know. What I know is that they're well groomed and well presented. It would be really great if someone liked it.
Is there any kind of a common link or thread running through the songs?
I keep saying, you know, I think the theme of the album, there's two themes of the album. One is the theme my granddad always says, and my dad, you know, you've got to seize the moment, you know. Maybe we've been watching too much of that Dead Poet Society, but, you know, Carpe Diem, all that. My granddad always said, "Do it now, boy," you know, in that very weird voice that I just did. But he didn't speak like that. But he did say, "Do it now," all the time. You know, he said, "You've got to do things now," and because we were taking so many aeroplane flights, and because we've started to get to an age where people we know have been dying and things like that, and that's one theme I know that runs through the record, is like, you know, get on with it, you know. And the other theme is girls, because that is the, and also there's a political side to girls, because there's a big fear about,
Fear about girls?
you know, there's a little bit of politics on it. Not really though, but there's just a worry on there that someone might bomb the world and hence destroy all girls. And so there's just a little mention of that. It'd be really great if that didn't happen. I don't really know where songs come from, you know. That's why I can't believe. That's what I mean. That's why I think you have to work as hard as you possibly can, you know, because in my head I see it as this amazing opportunity, and I've got so much privilege. I've been so privileged and so fortunate to have, you know, opportunity and encouragement and all that, and then to meet them boys, and so I just feel like I have to work all the time to try and get the best music of all, you know, that you possibly can, and so it's just like fishing basically. The way we approach songs is if you wait long enough, you know, it could go on for hours. I won't go on for hours. It helps if you have a piano, because I've never yet written a song on a tabletop. I'm seeing it. No, see, there's nothing there now, but something might come. And then I'll be off. And then I'll be off to Johnny and seeing. That's the scary. You see, at every level of making this record and the last one, there's just different stages of fear about what people will. Because sometimes I sit and something arrives, and I straight away want to show Johnny, you know, say, listen, man, you know, and if he likes it, that's great. And then we worry about whether Guy will like it, and then the three of us worry about whether Will will like it and whether he'll want to play on it. And so once we all like it, that's great. And does Ken like it, you know? So it's a massive. Each song has to go through it's like Pop Idol for our songs. You know, it's a huge selection process. You know, you're coming to London. You're not coming to London. Yeah, see what I'm saying? So there's a lot of crap that never makes it to Will. You know, most of it makes it to Will, but there's a lot of crap that no one will ever hear. You can't design a song. You can go, it'd be quite nice to have a song that went bash, 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 but you have to wait till it arrives or doesn't arrive, you know. And I don't know where they come from. It's an amazing thing. Like, I reckon, songs, because you could be Bono or you could be a busker and you might get an amazing tune or you might not, you know.
That was Clocks by Coldplay off their album A Rush of Blood to the Head. Now, we've talked about some of the differences, both lyrically and with the songwriting, between Parachutes and A Rush of Blood to the Head. What are some of the technical differences between the albums?
We've had the same equipment and technology on this album as we did the last album, so in that respect it hasn't changed. It's just we've learned how to use it better, you know, and like we had a lot of stuff came from sample sounds and synth sounds, which we're mucking around with, and just our basic recording procedure was improved, you know, so we could get the best out of our individual performances, and you know, which would, you know, helps the end product. But no, nothing's changed technology-wise. It's just we've got better at doing what we do.
After a few listens to the new album, it sounds like a fairly technically complex album, though.
I think we've pushed in terms of the techniques used to create the sounds. I think we've pushed ourselves more than we did on the first one, and more than we thought we could. I think we've more often than not we've ended up using techniques or methods of getting getting sounds which we weren't kind of aware of, and it's partly down to the people we were working with Ken Nelson and Mark Fithian, who were kind of they share the passion for getting good live music down on record, but then, you know, making it interesting by adding different techniques or, you know, different effects. So I think, yeah, for us it is more complex than the other one, than the first record, because that was quite straightforward. It wasn't much kind of trickery involved, but this I think this is more meticulous. I think it's a bit more meticulous. But on the other hand, there are songs that are kind of deliberately kind of a bit more scrappy as well. So it's a mixed bag. But I think we've definitely pushed ourselves in terms of technique and technology more so than the first record.
One thing that really shows through after several listens to the album is just the immense musical diversity between the different songs. What's your feelings on that?
Well, there is quite a lot of diversity in the sense that there's some really quite mellow, slow tracks, and some really heavy for us anyway, sort of bigger songs, and which we felt it was important to do, and we're kind of maintaining this philosophy from the last album, which has quite a diversity of songs as well. But I think the difference in this new album, they're more extreme. The song's called The Scientist, which is quite a slow piano song, and then, you know, the opposite would be something like A Whisper, which is more of a heavier guitar soundscape and less of a song. So there's, you know, we still want to make a record that you would put on and you could listen to it from beginning to end without being bored and without it being too long, which I think we've done. We could have put on 4 or 5 more songs if we wanted, you know. But, you know, I don't think that works. 18 songs that I think Moby's got, it's just too much for us, I think.
Where did you record the new album at?
We recorded it in 3 studios. We started it in Mayfair Studios in Primrose Hill in London. We then moved on to Parr Street Studios in Liverpool, where Ken, our producer's from, and where we recorded a lot of the first album, and we finished it off in Air Studios in Hampstead, which is an incredible, it's converted church building, which is owned by George Martin, who we were lucky enough to get to meet a few times and hang out with him. And we mastered it in New York.
What was it like working and recording in George Martin's Air Studios?
That was cool. We went into Air Studios at the end. This record, we started in London. We'd just come off 2 years of touring, and we really wanted to record lots of new songs, and we recorded them all in London, and then we went away, and I reckon that we realised we'd actually been coasting a bit on that recording session. This was back in October. Just day jobbing it a bit and just finding our feet again, and living it in London again. Just renewing old friendships and stuff, and then I remember me and Johnny were going up on the train to Liverpool to meet Ken, who co-producer, and just thinking, this could be an awful lot better, and that was great. And then we, by some amazing stroke of blessing or whatever, we ended up back in this little room that we did some of the first record on, without anyone telling us we were brilliant, without anyone, blowing smoke anywhere in our persons, and and it was just like, well, here we are. What are we going to do? And that was when songs like The Scientist, it just landed, and Daylight just landed, and Whisper, they just arrived, and it was really exciting. And then we'd work on them very fast, and Clocks, and it was really exciting time, because we thought, we can do anything, and it was really a nice balance between really new songs and songs that we knew that we wanted to put on because they were good, but they were taking a long time, like In My Place and God Put a Smile Upon Your Face and all them.
You said that you recorded a good bit of the new album at Parr Street, which is where you recorded most of your first album, Parachutes. So I guess you guys have sort of a good relationship going on with Parr Studios, and is that starting to feel just kind of like a home studio for you? Or
we've got good memories of Liverpool, obviously, from the last record, but it was, I don't know, it was kind of different on this, during these recording sessions, because there was more of a we just wouldn't let ourselves get tired. I mean, a lot of the time we felt tired on the first album, and we just wanted it to finish. But there was much more gusto in this, to just forget your sort of personal, mental or physical health, and just we just get up every day and get on with it, and wouldn't stop until every little facet of what we were trying to do was right. And certainly now, this is like even weeks after we finished recording, I still don't really feel, I haven't accepted the fact that it's finished, because it's taken 8 months of solid recording, whereas the first album, it took 9 months, but that was only 6 weeks in that 9 months. So we've done almost 8 times as much work.
Well, how important was the Parr Street Liverpool studios in your new recording process?
There's a room in Parr Street where it's just great to play music in and just sit and play for hours and hours with 4 of us, 2 of us, 3, whatever, however many. And we always managed to write things there, whereas other studios we haven't been as creative in. And so it was just a good time to go back, because we needed some new songs. And we'd started recording in London, and it was good, but it wasn't very inspired.
So it seems like most of your, the major amount of your productivity comes when you're outside of London. Why do you feel the need to get out of London to do a lot of your recording? Are you just distracted there?
Yeah, I suppose it is. You kind of need different things at different times, though. There's some times, I think, where you need to be 100% every second of your waking day. You're doing music and recording, playing and writing. And there's other times where you do need a break. I mean, when you're mixing or something, I'd hate to be locked away in a mix room, for 24 hours a day. I think that would be terrible. Just drive you mad.
Well, what you just said, I mean, the recording process is obviously a huge time-consuming endeavor. Do you ever just feel completely claustrophobic in there? Do you get cabin fever?
Not at all. Most of the boys would go home every weekend for when we were in Liverpool, so we'd only be up there 5 days, or I stayed a couple of times, or it was just nice. It was just a great place, great people.
Now, when it comes down to the actual writing and the recording of the songs, how do the 4 of you guys work together on that process?
The question about how a song comes together or how a song is written is one that we get asked a lot, and we've kind of developed an analogy to describe it, in that it's like a production line. Chris will start off with
the basis of a song, like chords and a melody and maybe a handful of lyrics, and then he'll take it to one of us or all of us, and it'll just kind of develop along this kind of line, and maybe it'll be a bass line that it'll take it one way, or a drum beat that'll take it another way, and kind of it all just adds up, and we all kind of have an equal say about what we think the other should do. So if there's a bit of guitar playing that guy doesn't like, he'll say, well, maybe try this, or likewise if there's some singing or a lyric that I don't like, I can say, well, maybe try this or that, and so it's kind of all quite democratic, and so at the end product is something that all four of us have okayed at one point. It does lead to problems, but I think the most important thing, the fundamental thing, is that we all share the same view of where we're going, I think, and it's just because of, I don't know what it is, it's collective consciousness probably, just we're all kind of aware about what we've done, where we are and where we want to go. So I think that's it's not as bad as it could be. It's going to be when things are going well, when we're all four, heads together, it's amazing. But sometimes it does get difficult, and you have arguments, and just like any relationship, really. But the fact that we do share the same kind of goal about where we want to get to means that we, a resolution is always close.
You mentioned earlier how you produce a pretty substantial amount of material, but a lot of that just never even sees the light of day. How much actual material did you guys compile for the recording of A Rush of Blood to the Head?
I reckon we recorded over 8,000 hours of music. No, we didn't. We recorded about 12 songs. No, I don't know. We see there's lots of half-finished things and half-baked and things that we thought were good, and a few songs that we liked that would be B-sides, and other songs that were just pure rubbish, We're very. I mean, it would be so great if you could release albums of pure rubbish, because we'd be on about our 30th by now. We'd have a career as long as Dylan. But unfortunately, we don't. No one's yet. We have never yet handed anyone on something that we thought was rubbish, and they've gone, "This is brilliant." They've always picked up on the fact that it is rubbish. So no, we haven't managed to. We're not big enough yet to release any rubbish.
Can you take me a little bit deeper just into the basic collective songwriting process?
Chris will have a basic song structure and melody on a piano or guitar or something like, a piano or guitar, and then we'll sit down, either all of us or one of us or two of us, and then we'll just start playing it together and writing riffs and drum beats, etc. And then more things will get added, and then we'll start to put it down, and then in the studio especially you can start to layer things up quite quickly and try different sounds, and it usually just kind of evolves over the period of a few weeks, really.
You worked with Ken Nelson on the first album and your newest album. What is Ken's role in the making of the basic Coldplay record?
Ken's our sounding board, really, as well as being a great engineer and having very good musical ears. It's just someone who we trust and depend upon to make right decisions in the studio.
Now, during this whole lengthy recording process, were there any particular tracks that gave you, extra special problems?
Well, it's funny because a lot of the tracks we put a lot of work into were problematic because we were trying to put too much into them, and what we ended up doing was stripping a lot of the stuff off it, and then it was fine, And the problem was we were trying to do too much. In fact, that happened to most of the songs. We would try stuff out and then take it off, but you have to try stuff out to see if it's going to work. But you also have to have the vision to see that if something's not working and it's better just leaving it without. So that was something that we got pretty good at doing, actually.
That was The Scientist by Coldplay off their newest album release, A Rush of Blood to the Head. Well, now that all the studio and production work is done on A Rush of Blood to the Head, album's, pressed and ready, I guess the next big major task is going to be, trying to reproduce this album for audiences live, take it back on tour. How hard of a job is doing that sort of live recreation of the spirit that you capture on the album?
Well, there's a lot to learn, really. I'm quite. The task is quite daunting because a lot of especially for me, because half of the tracks I just did they were just done in one take or something, and I was pretty much writing it while it was recording, and so I really haven't got a clue what I did. I'm gonna have to be working them out or something. There's some notes and odd sounds and stuff which just baffle me, really. I don't know. I have no idea where they came from.
Are you looking forward to getting out back on stage again and doing these songs live?
Yeah, man, because there's going to be so much scope for dancing to this stuff. I'm just looking forward to one of the main things for the making of this record was the Kylie video, Can't Get You Out of My Head, was just released at the time that we were just starting to record it. And the moves in that video are so great that I reckon that left something in the head about, it'd be great to have a few songs where, it's got a swing, And if you look very closely in our video for In My Place, there's a move that's nicked off Kylie. But I wish I hadn't told you that, but it is.
You did some tour dates with U2. Now, how has that affected your approach to the whole live presentation? In
my head, they're the competition. I used to think the competition was, the bands that we were on at the Falcon or tiny venues, and now, this sounds totally ridiculous, the only, as far as I'm concerned, we have to be better than everyone because we haven't got the excuse of being our debut album or anything. And even if we fall well short of it, we won't fall as far short of it as if we weren't trying to compete with. Well, the best people, I reckon, are U2. You were talking about live. U2, the Flaming Lips, the White Stripes, those, and Radiohead probably, and Music Good, Ashley Good. There's lots of good people. I wanted us to make a record that we could die happy after we've made it. And that's what I absolutely mean, and it sounds incredibly pretentious. But every time we get on an aeroplane, we all there's nods of this could be it, fellas. Or every time anyone does anything, every time you do anything, you should think, this could be my last day. That's what the whole album's about. And although some people will say this album is awful, and it might well be awful, we have no idea, but there's no point in being in a band unless you're trying to make the best thing ever, or trying to make something, because we could go at any moment, and it would be really bad if there was only one half of the 2-album box set that was any good.
Did you ever get tired or just feel burnt out doing your last touring process?
On occasion. I think we all did it in one point when we didn't really know what we were doing or why we were doing it or anything. But we kind of, at some point, I think it was last year, or all the years have kind of merged into one, so I'm not really sure. But we were in America, and all of us were ill, and we didn't know what we were doing, and I think we just wanted to go home and sleep for a week. And but then we got back on the road again afterwards and enjoyed it more than ever, and toured more than ever, and so I'm really looking forward to it. I love touring, absolutely love it.
So can fans of your music pretty much expect that your next year or two is going to be tied up with tours for the album?
It's looking like a couple of years, isn't it, really, that we'll be doing it. But hopefully in the time that we do travel, we'll see more places. South America is a place that I've always wanted to go to, and I'm hoping that it'll take us there for a few weeks, and we'll just find, there's going to be a lot of hard work goes into the production of the new live touring thing, for want of a better word. But no, it's gonna, we'll just have new experiences all the time, and it's exciting for us because at the moment America's looking pretty good, and we're getting a lot of support out there, which hasn't happened to a British band for a while, or so people keep saying, and so that's something that we want to grab hold of, and just see, if for interest's sake, if not anything else, just how far we can get there.
From what I've heard, a lot of English bands do complain about touring the U.S., and you guys seem to look at this in much more of a positive slant.
Yeah, I think in America especially, you have to be prepared to put in the hard work, and it's a big country with lots of places to play, and so you have to do a lot of touring, and it can be quite hard, but it's a good place, and we'll be spending a lot of time there next year.
Well, you all definitely seem to be just plenty excited about going back on tour again. I mean, are you just determined to make sure that every venue that you play, the fans are going to get, I guess, just the complete Coldplay experience?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we know we've still got a hell of a lot to learn about playing live and whatever, making it a genuinely great experience coming to see us. I think there's a great deal of ground to be made, and hopefully we'll be making it.
When you look back on the whole touring process that went with the first album, Parachutes, does it seem like just one long, crazy experience?
It does. It seems like, it's hard to pinpoint individual places where we went to and travelled. I mean, obviously you've got America and Australia and Europe and Japan, and they're very different places, so they never sort of blend into each other. But when you're sort of doing 6 weeks in America non-stop, playing almost every day, or just having 1 or 2 days off every couple of weeks, then it just merges into this mad sort of experience of sitting in buses and sitting in gigs. But it's amazing. We never ever got fed up of, it can be hard to get through the day when there's so much waiting around to do, but we were always, when it comes to going on stage, it was always everything, all your worries just go away, because that's what makes it. There was always something different to do, and if we were getting bored, we'd find something different to do to amuse ourselves, during the day. But no, it was altogether a good experience. The whole touring. I mean, I've seen more cities and countries already in my life that I probably never would have got to see in a whole lifetime. So it's hard to complain about.
Well, with all the touring that you did for Parachutes and all the places that you've been in the world now, I'd have to think that you had just some really crazy or insane experiences. Can you tell me about any of that?
We've had some pretty weird experiences ever since the record came out. Really, I always struggle to associate what I did for however many months we were 6 months or something recording that album. I find it very difficult to equate that to what it is that other people see in our band. I don't know. It's an odd thing, but pretty much all the time there are odd situations that have occurred from the recordings of the album. And I don't know. There's just always people that will say, always famous people or that are into our band, or just the places that it takes us and the people that we get to meet through off the back of writing some songs is kind of odd. Like meeting Sylvester Stallone because he wanted to use one of our songs in one of his blockbuster films, and who else? It's just really but it usually happens in America that you meet the kind of really random people. But more often than not, the amusing anecdotes have come from not being a face that anyone recognises, and it's quite funny because we went to the Grammys, for example, and we were in a photo shoot with a woman who I can't remember who she was, but me and Guy were doing a press conference and hundreds of interviews, radio interviews, and then we went and did a photo shoot with this woman, and she thought we were the people that had brought the pizzas. She thought we were the pizza boys. And we were like, no, we've been nominated for 3 Grammys. And she was like, oh, I'm really sorry. So it was, it's more often than not, the funny stories arrive from being a non-celebrity rather than a celebrity.
Will, you've said several times in the past that you feel lucky to have this life, which I take that to mean, this whole the places you get to see, the people you get to meet, just the fun you get to have while touring. But you feel very lucky to have that life without so much the hassle of being known as, you know, the face of the band.
I can't imagine what it's like for more. I think I can't imagine what it's like for Chris, because he's obviously the face, and it's the people, the one that people associate with the band more than the rest of us. But more, I mean, the thing that we were thinking about recently is how difficult it must be for solo artists, because they have no one, you know, at least we're 4 friends, with 4 people who share the same experiences, and if someone's getting out of line, you know, we'll tell them, or someone's behaving like a fool, you know, we can, you know, we have each other to bounce off. But I just can't imagine what it's like for someone who's completely kind of solo artist. I've got a lot of respect for them, but also, you know, it's not surprising that it is the solo artists that come across, you know, they have their kind of diva type tantrums and all that kind of thing, and it's understandable because you're just surrounded by people who are yes men and women, and it's probably quite difficult to get a straight and true answer.
Well, are there ever any times when you think about this fame or this popularity, and you kind of step back and just wonder, hey, what's going on? How did I get to this point?
Pretty much every day I wake up and think, good grief, what's going on? You know, it's a very odd situation to be in, because hopefully I don't think my personality has changed that much, fingers crossed. But it's still kind of, I'm just me. I lead an incredibly simple and fulfilling life, and it would be rude not to acknowledge. I think I wouldn't like to ever take it for granted, and I hope that I don't do that. But so yeah, pretty much every day I wake up and I don't have to go to work until like maybe 10:30 or something like that, and it's like my girlfriend will get up and be out of the house by 8:30, and I can just stay in bed and think, oh, I've got a photo shoot to do today, you know, or an EPK. So it's I kind of pinch myself every now and again, but it's pretty much a constant source of amazement.
Well, is there any sort of a downside to the popularity and the fame?
Anyone that says there's a downside to what we do is talking utter shit. Of course, we stress and we worry about it, and we put everything possible into it. I mean, everything possible, at the expense of friendships and everything. You know, but there's no downside to being in a band. You know, it's not like, you know, it's not like being a miner, or it's not like having no food, or, you know what I mean. There's no downside. I don't know what people always go, oh, Chris, you must be exhausted. You know, I'm sorry to interview you. You've travelled, you've come here from Korea. And you go, well, yeah, I've come here from Korea, you know, now I'm in Australia, what are you talking about? You know, and we went through a period of feeling a bit sorry for ourselves, like, oh, you know, we've got to go to Austria. And people would be like, what, you know, someone like my brother who takes no crap. You know, what are you talking about, man? So I say, yeah, you're right, you know. So there's bits where we have to work really hard, and bits that we don't enjoy as much as other bits, but in general, there's no downside.
And so ends the WUSM interview with the band Coldplay. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thanks to Coldplay and their label Capitol for allowing us to do this interview. If there's any further information that you would like to get about Coldplay, please visit their website at www.coldplay.com. To listen to this and many other interviews in their entirety, please visit the WUSM website at www.wusm.usm.edu, click on the station, and then select Reel Archive. I'm Kyle Bray.